Learn these 5 skills to become like Kiyotaka Ayanokoji. Reading people. When reading people, it's important to consider their body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, and their reaction to certain things. It's something that you need to be aware of in order to be observant. Without considering these things, you're actually missing out on a ton of information and you won't be able to read people, so you need to constantly remind yourself to look for these things. A good area to study to learn this skill would be body language. The nonverbals of humans provides a lot of information. In fact, there are some good body language examples in Classroom of the Elite. Let's take a look at a character called VevenSeven. He usually has dominant behavior and it's shown through his body language many times. One body language sign is the arm spreading out over the chair. People who do this are usually confident and comfortable. Humans tend to take up more space when they feel dominant or self-assured. Another body language sign is the interlaced fingers behind his head, also known as the hooding effect. It is a territorial display which indicates comfort and dominance. When you know body language signs like this, you can easily observe and read people. If you don't know where to learn this, then I recommend reading a book called What Everybody Is Saying. It will give you more details on the nonverbals of humans and allow you to further develop your observation and reading skills. With enough time and effort, you will be able to read anyone easily like Ayanokoji. Manipulation. Manipulation is related to reading people, but realize that it's a different skill set. Observation of humans is picking up information on individuals and social situations, but manipulation is using that information to deceive and control people. Ayanokoji clearly has well-developed knowledge in manipulation, as he can control people to do certain actions and influence people's perception to make himself appear unimportant. In order to have this skill like Ayanokoji, you need to learn the psychology of humans very well. Develop your understanding of how your behavior, words and actions can influence people to do certain things. One way of studying this is by reading manipulation and psychology books. I always recommend books from Robert Greene because he explains the psychology of humans very well, specifically these 3 books that go in depth on the many aspects of human psychology: 48 Laws of Power, Art of Seduction and the Laws of Human Nature. You can also learn from your own personal interactions with people because experience is good at teaching you many things. So always take mental notes on individuals and think about how you can potentially use this information to manipulate them. For example, if a person is usually impulsive and hot-headed, you could use their anger to cause conflict with certain people. Or perhaps a person is in a miserable and sad emotional state. You can use some of your generosity and kindness, causing the target to grow attached and dependent on you, making it more likely that the person will help you in the future. Essentially, you just need to think about how you can use certain pieces of information to influence a person into taking a specific action. When you have this thinking process and understand human psychology deeply, you will have manipulation as a skill. Martial arts. Ayanokoji has extraordinary hand-to-hand combat abilities. He uses a variety of fighting techniques, so in order to become a good fighter like him, you need to develop your skills in different martial arts. Start by choosing and taking some martial art classes in your area. In order to be a competent fighter, I recommend learning both striking and grappling. Striking involves defending and landing hits on your opponent using parts of your body. Grappling, on the other hand, involves controlling and submitting opponents up close, using techniques, position and leverage to gain a physical advantage over an opponent. The reason you want to learn both is because it will make you a well-rounded fighter. If you observe Ayanokoji's fighting style, he uses both striking and grappling techniques. Both are essential in becoming a skilled fighter. Here is a list of some martial arts to help you get started. Do some research and see if there's any of these classes in your area. Whatever you choose to learn will ultimately be up to you. After putting enough time and effort into a martial art, you'll become competent. Then you can continue learning other martial arts to eventually have hand-to-hand combat abilities like Ayanokoji. Deductive reasoning. This is a thinking process where you progress from general ideas to specific conclusions. The way to use deductive reasoning is to start with a very obvious fact from your observation. Then you use logical thinking and reasoning to narrow it down to a conclusion. Ayanokoji clearly has deductive reasoning as a skill because he was able to figure out that VevenSeven was communicating with Ibuki with a 2-way radio. Here's an example on how deductive thinking process would go. On the island, Ayanokoji observed that there's a 2-way radio. So you can start from the obvious statement that a 2-way radio is used to communicate with someone. The radio is on the table right next to him, so he's obviously been using it or is going to use it. The only reason for having it in the first place is to use it to communicate with someone. Then you can ask yourself some questions on who he's communicating with and lay out some possibilities. He could be communicating with another class and possibly be working with them. He could also be communicating with a possible spy in the other classes. Because from previous observations, there was a member from Class C staying with Class B. There's also another Class C member, but she's staying with Class D, so there's the possibility of communication with a spy. But there's no strong information to deduce to a conclusion yet. Sometimes this will happen to you, so you need to wait to gain more information. In the case of Ayanokoji, he finds another radio, which is where Ibuki was before. With this new information, you can deduce that Ibuki is communicating with Wiyuan because you have previously observed that he has a radio. Then you can deduce even further, coming to the conclusion that Ibuki is a spy. There's no other good possibilities because you wouldn't just bury a radio for no reason. The only reason you would do that is to hide it from people and to communicate with someone. That person is Wiyuan. When you can deduce like this, you can gain crucial information that most people are not aware of. Deduction might seem complicated at first, but all you really need to do is observe and establish obvious things first. Then you can notice details and other pieces of information that are related to your obvious observation. Also practice being observant and being aware of your surroundings. The more you do this, the more you develop your deductive skill. Emotional control. In order to control your emotions, you have to develop a high amount of awareness. You do this by identifying your emotional triggers. For example, a certain event or specific person might be mentioned and cause you to feel anger. This is an emotional trigger. When you have awareness of the root cause of your emotions, you will have an easier time in calming yourself down, essentially stopping you from taking bad and irrational actions. People who are in an unstable and emotional state can never make the best decisions, which is why you should take the time to understand the cause and source of your emotions. You can also observe emotional triggers in other people to help you develop awareness. Not only will it help in understanding emotions, but it can also help develop your reading skills as well. When you do all this, you will have great emotional control like Ayanokoji. He doesn't react in an emotional impulsive manner. He keeps himself composed and responds to things in an optimal way. It allows him to think clearly and take the best actions possible. Thanks for watching VevenSeven.